ECSI fans, do you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all of your sports books and track all of your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You can also sign up for sportsbooks and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as they're the best account on the platform. Head to the App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire. Download the app.
Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and yes, it's time. Tea Time Wagers with Brady Kannon this week at the Valspar, Tuesday, March 19, 2024, one day from our usual Wednesday afternoon or early evening show. I will be heading to Tennessee, Chattanooga with Anthony Pepe and Food Truck Festivals. So blessed and honored that Brady could move up to tonight, or actually move back to tonight to get today's shows off. So thank you to Mr. Brady Kannon, of course, here. Shout out to our proud sponsor and new partnership, WagerWire. If you have not downloaded this app, please run on over to Google Play, Google Action, wherever you download the apps. It's free. Please start taking advantage of all the bonuses, the match plays from your state and your sports book that will be down below there. And if you're looking for an affiliate deal, send an email to affiliate@wagerwire.com. Tell them JD from ECSI sent you. Travis, Zach, the rest of this amazing community will take good care of you. So without further ado, pulling up in the golf cart from the driving range to the first tee, the one and only Mr. Brady Kannon.
Jeff, how are you, my friend? Good to be back with you. And yeah, no problem. Doing it a little early here on a Tuesday. I know you've got some commitments out of town, so I've pretty much got all my work done by this time anyway. So, probably maybe tie up some loose ends, come up with I don't know, maybe I won't add any plays, but just make sure I've got all my I's dotted and T's crossed here heading into Thursday for the Valspar. We almost had one last week. My goodness, Xander Schauffele comes up one shot shy for us. And, you got to hand it to that man, Scotty Scheffler, once again, now 2 weeks in a row, the first guy in history ever to defend his title at the Players Championship. And he does it with a sweet Sunday 64 to clip Schauffele and Wyndham Clark and Brian Harmon by a stroke. This guy's unbelievable, man. You and I were talking about it before we came on air backstage, down below 5-1 now to win the Masters. And the next closest contender on the odds board is more than double that price. Rory McIlroy at 12-1 and Jon Rahm at 13. Scotty Scheffler, this is all at Circus Sports, currently at plus 495. And, I said it going into the Players Championship. I said, if his putter continues to stay hot, who's going to beat him? And I said, I don't have an answer. And I guess that was the case once again. It's pretty tough to beat that guy when he holds a few putts.
I go back a week ago and I started the show by saying it's Scotty's world and we just live in it. Who is going to beat Scotty Scheffler? The only person that's going to beat Scotty Scheffler is his putter. That's it. And scary back-to-back weeks. Takes this week off, so giving Xander, Sam Burns, and some other people an opportunity here, just less than a month away from the Masters. We were talking backstage, 495, not even 5-1. What do you do at this point if you wanted to get a future or two into the Masters? With Scotty so hot, do you look further down the board? Again, Sam Burns knocking on the door, a couple bad holes again. The one guy that's sticking out real hard to me right now, playing great golf, is Wyndham Clark.
Yeah, absolutely. This guy has really become a big game hunter. My goodness. He shoots a 60 at Pebble Beach. And we really don't know how that tournament might have unfolded because they had to cut it short after just 54 holes. But still, you shot a 60. And I know scoring conditions were pretty easy, but he backed all of that up with a runner-up finish at Bay Hill right there on the heels of Scotty Scheffler, and then did it again the following week at the Players Championship right there till the bitter end with Schauffele and Scheffler. Yeah, this guy is really making a name for himself. It'll be interesting to see what he can do at Augusta, because that is a very different test. And I'm not even sure. I think last year might have been his first Masters, if I recall. And I think he made the cut. I don't think he did too well. I haven't dived into that completely, but he has very little Masters experience. And that's a big deal because, it used to be that you had to have at least 6 trips around Augusta National before you won the Masters. Now that has changed a little bit in the last 10 years or so. We've had some guys that have only played 2 or 3 times there win. Some of those trends have been tweaked a little bit. But it still is a very powerful fact, I believe, that you have to have experience around Augusta because there are so many twists and turns and nuances to those greens. You have to get used to that type of thing. I mean, the last guy that won there on his first time showing up was Fuzzy Zeller in 1979. So the point is that you have to take a few laps around that track to get to know it. And you can't just, really be on a heater and necessarily win the thing, even if you're going real hot, like Wyndham Clark is right now. So I'm not sure I want to back him at a course that he has not played or a tournament that he has not played a whole lot of time. Scotty, we know he already has a green jacket, but, we really haven't seen him do incredibly well there in the last couple of years when he started to develop the putting woes. And now the putter's been good here for, a couple weeks in a row. It wasn't perfect at the Players until the last day, but that's when it mattered. And that's when it was at its best at Bay Hill. But, Augusta brings a whole new level to putting. Probably the fastest greens these guys play on tour all year. Certainly one of the fastest anyway. And the touch and the creativity needed around the greens. It is a different animal than anything certainly they play all year, and especially what they've played during this season up until the Masters. So no, I'm not going to. I can't do 5-1. And do I say, am I kicking myself because I didn't get 6 or 7-1? No, I'm not. Now the other thing here is the Masters is typically a pretty chalky tournament. You don't often get triple digit guys that win at Augusta. And that kind of goes to what we were saying, that it takes experience. It takes guys that have been here and done that and played well before. It's one of the strongest course history tours, if not the very strongest on the entire calendar of tournaments that they play, meaning guys that typically play well at Augusta do so year in and year out and do so on a more regular basis than any other tour event throughout the year. So course history is extremely strong. So, the same guys, Koepka, Rahm, Spieth, Hideki Matsuyama, the same guys that we see do well there, typically do well there year in and year out. Phil Mickelson, one of the most successful Masters players of all time, finished second last year, at the ripe old age of 54 or whatever he was. So that course history, Tiger winning in 2019, guys that know this property continually do well. And Scotty's been around about 4 times. I don't even think he's reached that threshold of 6 Masters played yet. And he's already won one. But again, I think there is more emphasis on putting, especially than there is at Bay Hill or the Players Championship. So we'll see what the flat stick's looking like in a few weeks from now and see if Scotty's worth a play. But he's certainly not a guy I'm looking at right now.
Shout out to Marty Lowe, Roll Tide Roll, and Brian Gaskell, good friend of mine. Don't ever mention Sam Burns in my presence again after Sunday, LOL. He sent me a text on Sunday, and I sent him the gift, the tin cup with the guy's handout asking for another ball. And so we had some good fun there. Before we get onto this week, I'm going to stay at the Masters for 1 second. The guys that went to live, that are playing now over at Live. Again, we're not here to dissect Live and the players that went back and forth that will be playing in the Masters. You brought up Brooks. I think of Cam Smith. I think of some other guys over there. Again, a couple years ago, it was, I'm staying away from the Live golfers. Not too long ago, I'm going to see how they're playing over there the last few weeks before they come back here to the Masters. But is the Masters just a separate entity where, again, the more rounds you played there, it doesn't really matter your form when you get to Augusta?
Yeah, I would say that's generally true. I mean, you can't be in awful form. I don't know if you can turn it around that, on that large a scale. You have to be, I think, at least in decent form, and in good form doesn't hurt. But yeah, like we've been saying, guys can get it. I mean, Jordan Spieth is a classic example. It seems like every time he rolls up Magnolia Lane, it's a new Jordan Spieth that, is probably going to finish top 5 here in his sleep, like he seems to do year in and year out. So, Patrick Reed showed up and had a great finish last year, a Live player. Phil Mickelson, I mentioned. Brooks Koepka, who's had some good finishes at Augusta, but never as good as he did last year. John Rahm, now a Live member and the defending champion. So, I mean, the Live absolutely. Dustin Johnson, a former Masters winner. So they actually have absolutely have some guys that know this golf course, have won at this golf course, have had a ton of success at this golf course. So, yeah, I think even playing the Live Tour without the cut, the 54 holes, maybe the form on paper doesn't look as good, but I think these guys are probably in a good enough rhythm where you can't throw them all to the side, and some of them are probably going to be contending again.
Valspar, no Scotty Scheffler. If my memory serves me correct, Xander, the favorite, and I think Sam Burns was close there. Sorry, Brian, I'm mentioning him. It's only Tuesday, not Sunday. A reprieve. Scotty, loved the press conference. Such a down-to-earth guy. Not full of himself. He's really taken the winning, I think, real well in regards to, he knows right now he's the best golfer in the world, but he's not flaunting it in front of everyone.
Right. I agree. No, I like the guy too. He's not as flashy as a player. He's almost a little bit of a boring player, because all he does is find the fairway and find the green. And, every now and then he drops in a birdie, and for the most part, one thing I do enjoy watching about Scotty is his short game, though. I mean, boy, he can really chip and scramble from around the greens. That's probably one of the most enjoyable things about watching him. It's always nice to have a ticket on him too, because you're probably not going to go too sideways. The guy, he's always right there, finishing top 5, top 10, almost automatic, and you've always got a chance to win. I had him one time this year in Phoenix. I was expecting him to defend his title there for actually a 3rd year in a row. And he was close on Sunday. He got to the point where he was a minus 200 favorite, but wasn't able to close the deal that week, and now has done it 2 weeks in a row. And I mean, I guess nothing surprises you at this point. But no, I don't think, like I say, he's not the flashiest style, not the most exciting player in the world. But I really like his demeanor and his attitude and the person that he is, that, from what we can garner just watching on TV and the interviews and the press conferences and that type of thing.
And you talked about the short game. I remember it like it's yesterday, and I can't remember what I had for breakfast, but a couple years ago at the Masters on Sunday, I want to say it was the 10th hole. I could be wrong there. Him and Cam Smith sitting side by side off the green. And I think they each chunked the first one, and then Scotty puts it like, a foot away, and Cam.
Oh, yeah. No, I think that was like the 3rd hole. That was very early in the round. And I was on Cam Smith that year, and I said, okay, here's an opportunity, because Scotty's in trouble. And then Smith chunks a wedge shot, which was very atypical of him. And then Scotty hits his next one, bangs it into the pin. And I think it dropped in for a birdie or a par or something like that. And I was like, oh, here we go. Oh my goodness.
That's the old thanks for playing, hon. I'm putting the grill on now, and I'll meet you on the 18th. Valspar. The stage is yours. You can talk about the setup. defending champs, course history, yada, yada, yada. Then I'll pull you front and center for your outrights.
Yeah, this is a similar golf course to what we've been experiencing so far on the Florida swing. They ought to call it the ball striking swing. I mean, that's really what the emphasis is at the Cognizant Classic at PGA National, certainly Bay Hill, and the Players Championship. And that's really the formula here again. It takes really strong iron play. It takes accuracy off the tee. It's not necessarily a bomber's paradise. Certainly the Valspar is not. We've seen bombers win here before, like Gary Woodland, but for the most part, it's your shorter knockers, more accurate hitters, great iron players, and guys that can really scramble and putt around the greens. And that's kind of been the formula, what we've seen the last few weeks. Overall, again, ball striking is probably the most important statistic that we have been considering on the Florida swing. Different from other courses, different from the California swing where you've got some different elements coming into play and whatnot. But that's, again, the trick here, I believe, at the Valspar. It doesn't really look like a Florida course. You've got a lot of elevation change. You've got a lot of undulation. You've got very narrow fairways that are lined by pine trees, not palm trees, but pine trees. Not as much water on the course. Very thick rough that borders these narrow fairways. So, a lot of these people say when they get to the first tee, it looks more like they're in North Carolina rather than Florida. One thing that's interesting about this course, and it's also similar with TPCSawgrass last week, you really have to put yourself in good position off the tee. So guys are going to be hitting anything from 4-iron to driver here off the tee, however they think they can best position themselves to make those approach shots into these greens. And you've also got 5 par 3s. This is a par 71, 5 par 3s and 4 par 5s and 9 par 4s. And each one of those par 3s is in the neighborhood of 200 yards. So what this all amounts to, I talk about the precision iron play, the placement off the tee. You're going to end up with more than half of your approach shots, including the par 3s, from 175 to 200 or more yards. And so I looked at guys that are very good on approach shots in that window this week. I looked at scrambling. I looked at strokes gained approach. That's probably going to be the most important skill set this week. I looked at accuracy off the tee, good drives gained, so a little bit of a combination of length and accuracy off the tee. I looked at how these guys do on the 200-yard par 3s, of course, which we have a lot of this week, and then the short game, strokes gained around the green and scrambling. So it's a similar formula to what we saw last week. Not the exact same golf course. Certainly the same players don't pop in the stats, but it's close. So, I think guys that have been playing well on the Florida swing should probably have another good week here at a course that is asking a similar test of these players.
All right. Without further ado, what everyone's waiting for, we'll give it to you for the outrights. 1 second here.
Well, I mentioned, the skill sets that I'm looking at, and also the correlated courses. Those are always real important to me. Golf betting is so much like NASCAR betting, and you see the same drivers on certain types of racetracks have success. And it's very similar with golf. You see the same players at certain types of courses have success. This week, as far as correlated courses, I looked at Sea Island, where they play the RSM Classic. I looked at TPC Twin Cities, where they play the 3M Open in Minnesota. TPC Southwind, which is now a part of the FedEx Cup playoff series. They used to play the FedEx St. Jude WGC there at TPC Southwind in Memphis, Tennessee. I looked at Muirfield Village, where they play the Memorial Jack Nicklaus's tournament. Took a look at that one. Harbor Town, which is, again, a narrow ball striking iron type course, accuracy over distance, where they play the RBC Heritage in Hilton Head, South Carolina. So those were some of the courses. The John Deere Classic, believe it or not, is another one. TPC Deer Run, another course where we've seen crossover success and a similar layout to what we have here at the Copperhead course at Innisbrook. The Copperhead course, a very difficult course. If you look at the last 8 editions of this tournament, the winning score has been on average of less than 12 under par. So a tough course that they're going to find themselves on this week. the Copperhead course at the Innisbrook Resort in Palm Harbor, Florida. The final stop on the Florida swing before we do a couple of trips to Texas, a couple of stops in Texas, I should say. And then, of course, that drive down Magnolia Lane for the Masters. I ended up on one shorter shot this week, and that's Justin Thomas at plus 1650. I found him. That was the best price I could find. And I actually think that price might be inflated just a little bit this week because he is coming off of a missed cut at the Players Championship last week. But in those 2 rounds at the Players, uncharacteristically, he lost all kinds of strokes with the short game. Thomas is one of the best chippers and, scramblers in the game. In fact, this week, over the last 36 rounds, he ranks 11th in this field for strokes gained around the green. But it really hurt him last week. Not only the strokes gained around the green, but the putter was failing him as well. However, he did gain over 4.5 strokes with his irons last week in the 2 rounds that he played. So the irons are still there. And if he can, get back to his form that we're used to seeing around the greens, then I think he's going to have a good week this week. And we forget he came into the Players Championship with 5 starts under his belt and 4 of which he finished top 12. So the form is not bad at all for Justin Thomas right now. And like I say, maybe we're getting a little bit of a bump in price because of the missed cut last week. I mentioned last 36 rounds, 11th in this field for strokes gained around the greens. Also strokes gained approach. He ranks 11th in this field. He's won at TPC Southwind. He's got a runner-up at Muirfield Village. He's got a top 5 at the John Deere, and he's finished 8th before at Harbor Town at the RBC Heritage. Then I went to Doug Gim at 46-1. This guy is a real sneaky play at TPC Sawgrass, where he's now finished 29th or better in 3 out of 4 trips. He just seems to really do well around that track, and he finished 16th there last week. This guy's stats really pop week in and week out. He's a great ball striker, very accurate off the tee. He's really good all the way around, but he just can't seem to get a whole lot further than that top 20 finish. But now this week, we have a much less crowded field, if you will, lacking star power than we did last week at the Players. So at 46-1, if Doug Gim keeps doing what he's doing, what he's been doing not only at the Players, but he comes in off of 5 straight top 16 finishes this season. So if it's going to be more of the same this week for Doug Gim against, like I say, a more watered down field, that might prop him up all the way to the top spot on the leaderboard. Last 36 rounds, he's 12th in this field for greens and regulation gained, 8th in strokes gained approach, and he's top 30 in the field for strokes gained around the green and scrambling. The stats, like I say, are always there for this guy, and against the weaker field, it might be his time. He comes from the University of Texas, so familiar with the Bermuda grass putting surfaces as well. Then I went back to Andrew Putnam. I was on Putnam last week at triple digits. This week, he's at 70-1. 2 weeks ago, he finished 8th at Bay Hill. He did drop to a 53rd place finish last week at the Players after starting out pretty well, but faded over the weekend. And it was very peculiar. This guy's an excellent putter. Over the last 36 rounds, he ranks 14th in this field for strokes gained putting on Bermuda grass. And he lost almost 4 strokes putting to the field last week. So hopefully he goes back to the norm with his putter this week. If the ball striking remains consistent, as he has been for a while now, especially the past couple of years, where I think he's really improved as a player on tour. He's got 2 top 10s already this season. The last 36 rounds, he is number 1 on this field for greens and regulation gained, and he is 2nd in this field for I'm missing it right now. Good drives gained, I believe it was. Number 1 in greens and regulation gained, 2nd for good drives gained, 10th in this field for scrambling, and 20th for strokes gained approach. It was just the putter that let him down last week, which is very atypical for Putnam, who is an excellent putter. He's got a 5th place finish at Southwind and Muirfield Village, 11th place at TPC Twin Cities, and a 12th at Sea Island. And then I went even a little deeper to Sam Ryder at 95-1. He's been playing very well in Florida so far, with a 21st place at the Cognizant and a 16th place last week at the Players Championship. He's got a 7th at Muirfield Village and a 7th at the 3M Open and a runner-up at the John Deere. 4th in this field for strokes gained approach, the last 36 round, and 2nd in hole proximity from that magic distance that I mentioned, 175 to 200 yards. Sam Ryder, 2nd in this field in hole proximity from that distance. And then Lee Hodges, my longest bomb, at 125-1. And I really like how he's done on the ball striker style courses this season, and also how he's done against the signature event fields. If you look at what he's done in the last 3 signature events, he finished 24th at the Genesis Invitational, again, a ball striker type property, 12th at the Arnold Palmer a couple weeks ago at Bay Hill, and then 35th last week at the Players, and again, against a signature field. So like Doug Gim, Lee Hodges, with a more of a watered down field here and less star power around him, maybe he can elevate even higher and get that elusive or that 2nd career win in the case of Lee Hodges, who won last year at one of the correlated courses, TPC Twin Cities. He's got a 13th place finish at TPC Southwind and a 12th place finish at the Memorial. Also, like Justin Thomas, like Doug Gim, these guys went to school in the Southwest. Thomas and Hodges both went to Alabama. So another couple of guys that ought to be very familiar with the Bermuda grass putting surface. In fact, Hodges last week at the Players Championship gained over 3 shots on the field with his flat stick. So hopefully the hot putter holds up this week in Palm Harbor, and he's got another good finish around the corner for us. And then finally, Jeff, just one. I was only able to find one full tournament head-to-head matchup this week, and I went back to Andrew Putnam, got him at -125 over the defending champion Taylor Moore. Moore hasn't been fantastic this season, and when you're not coming in good form to a place that you won just the year prior, there's a lot of commitments, a lot of media commitments. You may have friends and family wanting to come back to the scene of the crime, if you will. Just a lot of possible distractions here for a guy that hasn't been in great form. So I'm going to go against him with a guy that I happen to like this week in Andrew Putnam. And again, that's -125 on the head-to-head.
And the last 2 weeks we had the Todd Father, and this week we go from the Todd Father to the Gim Reaper.
Yes, indeed.
So I am obviously excited for that. And I like, again, we got a headliner up top with JT at plus 1650, but then Gim, Putnam 46-1, 70-1, and then again some great odds on Ryder and Hodges 95-1 and 125. Come back with Putnam -125 there. And as always, I'll give you the stage for this. Make sure you explain to them the volatility, the hold, play the outright, but also the top 20.
Yeah, the outrights really is the smallest area of risk for me. I don't put a ton of money on these guys because it's very difficult to pick one winner out of 150 some golfers. And then I will up the ante on the risk on the head-to-head matchup. We have a lot better chance to win that than we do the outright winner of this tournament. Now, the 5 guys that I played for an outright win, I do up the ante in playing them for a top 20 finish. So each of these guys, I also played for a top 20 finish. Justin Thomas was just slight minus money. I think he was in the neighborhood of -105, maybe -115. The rest of the guys were plus money, anywhere from +150 to +350. And I will risk a lot more in that market, the top 20 finish market, than I do the outrights, and then even a little more risk on the head-to-head matchup. So I like to stagger it that way. I'm going to invest more money in areas where I have a better chance to cash that ticket.
Last week of the Florida tour, you say we hop on over to Texas for back-to-back weeks in Texas. What do we have next Wednesday for us?
Yeah, next Wednesday, I think it's the Valero Texas Open, and then I'm trying to remember what one it is after that. I don't believe it's Houston. Maybe it's Houston and the Valero. I'd have to look to be sure. But then, of course, we will head back to the state of Georgia for the Masters. But the Texas two-step coming up as a primer for the first major of the season.
I have the following week at the tip of my tongue. It used to be the Houston Open? Is that correct? Or am I wrong now?
Yeah, and I can't remember if they played. They used to play. They had switched the Houston to the fall series, and I don't believe they did this past year. So I think it's back in this slot here. I think we may go Valero and then Houston. I'd have to look it up to be sure. The Valero, I believe, is at TPC San Antonio, a Greg Norman and Sergio Garcia design. But I'd have to double check that to be sure.
The crawler's been going the whole time. Everyone knows they can go over to X or Twitter, follow you at Las Vegas Golfer. But as we always end our show here, the stage is yours. Tell them where they can find all your work and, of course, where they can find you on TV, Brady.
Yeah, Sports Grid. I appear on the Sports Grid betting network. You can find them streaming all over the place and also on Sirius XM channel 159. I'm on there about 6 days a week, not only talking golf, but also some football and, of course, college basketball this time of year. I write for the PGA Tour. You can find my stuff there at pgatour.com under the heading of Golf Bet. All my articles are with a gambling perspective for the tour event that week. Golf.com. My article is up there this week. If you want to check that out and get a little further insight to what we've talked about here on the program. And then, of course, it's all updated, pretty much 24/7 at Twitter, where you can find me at Las Vegas Golfer.
Shout out again to Marty Lowe, to my good friend Brian Gaskell. Shout out to Senior Mr. Lucky, to the Wager Wire community and crowd there. Anyone new to this space, if you have a second, jump on over to YouTube. Subscribe to East Coast Sports Investors YouTube channel. Turn on the notifications. Never miss a show with me and Brady. Generally Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. Today, again, 6 p.m. and 3 p.m. Pacific, thanks to Brady. So for myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, from the one, the only, the star of this show, Mr. Brady Kannon at Las Vegas Golfer. Make sure you head on over to Sports Grid. Catch him over there as well. Best of luck. Enjoy yourselves. Cash some tickets. Stay straight down that fairway, out of the bunkers, and hopefully Brady will get us to the green. See you soon.